Welcome back to Hobby Jogger Elite, and welcome back to the Marathon Build series, where we just finished up, I believe, week 6 of marathon training at this point, pursuing another personal best after getting better slightly at the marathon in each of my past 3 attempts. Ultimately, we're trying to go sub 3 this marathon, and been a really good training block so far, despite some very adverse summer conditions. The humidity higher than ever, the heat persisting like crazy into the latter parts of August now. And you know, adverse conditions have sort of been the theme of my race days since I really started running. I'm sort of trying to embrace the whole poor weather conditions thing at this point, you know, control the controllables and don't really worry about what you can't control, that kind of thing. So I really tried to embrace that this week. Let's take a look at what we did for week 6 of marathon training. I started off this week again with a Monday steady, but sort of some work-related obligations are probably going to shift my steady runs in some way, and I'll probably be hitting some smaller mileage AM PM doubling on Mondays and Tuesdays in the near future throughout the rest of the training block. But yeah, had the opportunity to hit 12 miles at a nice steady clip for this past Monday. It was nice. It was cool enough, you know, mid 60 degrees at around 6 in the morning. And yeah, kind of worked down towards 7 flat pace and really targeted that. I guess it's technically like LT1. It's sort of like where fat burning begins, that sort of very steady state, not quite marathon pace, but also not quite easy type of pace. This has been sort of a staple in my marathon training, really since I started marathon training, as I like to do like 2 outright explicit quality sessions instead of 3 every week. And in place of like a 3rd quality session, I usually like to do sort of like medium to medium long length steady run. So always nice to start the week with a nice steady run. And yeah, hovered right around 7-minute pace for those steady sections. Felt pretty good doing so in the Asics Super Blast, which cannot get enough of that shoe right now. Tuesday then, I hit a easy run, again, nice and early in the morning, just after 6 a.m. Another, you know, around 65, 67 degrees there. Wasn't too humid that morning, so it felt really good. Yeah, just about 9 miles, a little over 70 minutes of running, and just kind of kept it nice and controlled, nice and easy, because I did have a 15-mile workout on a Wednesday. Again, pretty early in the morning. This was the featured workout of the week. It was a threshold workout. It was 2x3 mile reps, and then 2 miles and 1 mile. So a total of 9 miles at threshold. So pretty beefy in terms of a threshold workout. Lot of quality work in there. Yeah, you'll sort of see how that went in the video clips coming up here soon. But safe to say, felt amazing. This was the coolest morning of the whole entire week. And then Thursday, hit another 9-mile easy run, nice and easy in the morning. Worked down from about 8:40 pace to like 7:30 pace. Felt smooth, and then doubled later that afternoon for another 4 miles. And usually I feel like remarkably mediocre to just like not good on the days that I double because of how warm it's been. For whatever reason, just felt really good on that double, despite it being quite a bit warmer. Friday hit a just shy of 9 miles, easy pace, average pace of 7:55 in the Rebel V3s. And yeah, worked down to in the 7:20s pretty much by the end of that run. Felt nice and smooth. Saturday morning, woke up nice and early, but still didn't get out until a little later. I was having, for whatever reason, my stomach was just not happy with me on Saturday morning. I ate a lot of cabbage the day before, and my mom told me as I was sitting next to her at a Philadelphia Phillies game the next night, I told her I had eaten like half a head of cabbage the day before and that my stomach was feeling weird, and she told me that was probably why. So don't eat half a head of cabbage the day before your long run workout. Apparently your stomach's gonna blow up, and that's kind of what happened to me. So warmed up 3 miles before hitting a marathon pace based workout. The Daniels running formula had prescribed 8 miles at marathon pace, 1 mile threshold 4 miles at marathon pace. So 13 total miles of work with one threshold mile sort of sandwiched in between an 8-mile marathon pace section. A 4-mile marathon pace section, I knew how hot and humid it was going to be, so I said, we're going to scrap that threshold mile because I know I'm going to be absolutely destroyed if after 8 marathon pace effort miles, I have to drop down to threshold and then get it's just going to kind of ruin the workout a little bit, which I guess is sort of the point. It's really testing your fortitude late into a workout. But you know what? It was just so hot so early. I decided we're just going to do 12 marathon pace miles. That's just going to be the workout for the day. And that was the plan. And that's what I thought was going to happen. Our first half of the marathon pace miles, I felt really good, really smooth. Wore the Alpha Flies for this, and I thought they were fine for the first half. And then I got really hot, really sweaty. The temperatures just continued to increase. It was 98% humidity on this day. It just felt so incredibly hot, and it was the first time I ever hated running in the Alpha Flies. My feet were sweating so much that it sounded like every time my foot struck the ground, it sounded like I was sinking into a puddle. It was like a suction-y wet sound. That's how much I was sweating. And the Alpha Fly, they just weren't draining at all. I just felt sweat pooling under them. I started to drift from a marathon-based effort heart rate to more a threshold type of feel, and I just knew it wasn't going to be great. And then after about 13 or 14 ounces of my soft flask full of Tailwind and one gel, my stomach just absolutely blew up at the 7th marathon pace mile, and I could just feel that this was going to be not all that productive beyond that point, as my stomach just blew up, and I had to stop to gather myself miles and miles away from the closest bathroom. It was a nightmare. I thought we were gonna have an absolute disaster on the side of the road, on our hands, maybe on our feet, maybe everywhere at that point. So just sort of gutted it out to 10 miles. Told myself you might run into some stomach issues during the marathon. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened to me. Find a way to cope with it. I did that to 10 miles, and I maintained the pace. I gotta be proud of that, right? I'm not too upset about having to cut it short by 2 miles. It was so extremely hot. And when it comes to a shoe that I'm gonna race in, particularly 26.2 miles, 42 kilometers in, you don't wanna be thinking about what you're wearing on your feet. You want that to be the last thing you're thinking about. You just want them to do their job. And every time I run into Adios Pro 3, I don't think about the fact that I'm wearing the Adios Pro 3. I just think about the fact that I'm running well, and they're just so smooth. So I would say for this half marathon that's coming up in the 3rd week of September, I'm going to be running it in the Adios Pro 3, and that will probably be the deciding factor in what my race day shoe is going to be. If I feel really good and don't run into any issues, which I have never run into issues with the Adios Pro 3 before for anything beyond 10K. I ran my 10K PB without even trying a threshold workout in training in the Adios Pro 3s. All that to say, I might be an Adios Pro 3 guy for this upcoming marathon, and might run my first marathon in a non-Nike shoe. So we'll see how that goes. But regardless, that was a very long tangent about shoes, about stomach issues, about sweat. Capped off at just over 17 miles on the day, and then woke up this morning, and I had been to the Philadelphia Phillies game last night, in bed around midnight, slept maybe 6 hours, and felt like $1,000,000 when I woke up this morning. Wasn't sore at all from yesterday, and I was just cruising, just absolutely cruising. So I felt amazing, which tells me that maybe I could have pushed a little harder yesterday if it wasn't for the stomach issues, which tells me that I'm in a really good spot fitness-wise, because I was running 720s and 17 paces at a very easy effort this morning without much thought, and just kind of cruised for 10 miles. That was my week of training. We eclipsed our weekly mileage record again, which I didn't really even think about. It was a pretty busy week. Ended up running 85 miles, 10 hours and 43 minutes of running, and about 3,100 feet of elevation gain. So the intention at this point isn't to increase mileage all that much more based on all the smart people I've heard talking about mileage, maintaining mileage, and running higher mileage for something like the marathon is that it's a lot more beneficial to maintain whatever level you are at than it is to like fluctuate like crazy. I feel healthy, capable, and not absolutely miserable at about 80 to 85 miles a week right now. And I, in the past, have always been somebody who would sort of increase by, anywhere from like 3 to 5 miles every week of the marathon block. Start at around like 40 to 45 miles and end around like 70 to 75 miles. So it would be the steady increase all the way to my peak week. But I've seen a lot of people have success by sort of like getting to their peak and like holding that peak, or sort of like fluctuating in and around plus or minus a couple miles of that peak throughout. So that's my strategy from here. Great week of training. This was a very much so a blabbering video, but yeah, thanks for watching, and stick around here for the featured workout of the week. Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful, crisp summer Wednesday morning here in August. Only about 60 degrees today, which feels positively autumnal. Big, beefy threshold workout today. 2 by 3 miles at threshold effort, 2 miles at threshold effort, 1 mile at threshold effort. So 9 total threshold miles over the course of what will probably be about 15 miles total. Running it in Takumi Sen 9, which feels very strange to be running like easy warm-up pace in at the moment. But they were an absolute bottle rocket of a shoe, despite not having a carbon plate in them at the 5K distance, especially for 5K workouts. But we don't need 5K pace today. We just need threshold effort. So hopefully they're good at that. Hopefully it's a good workout. About a mile into our warm-up here planned. Let's warm up about 3 miles before we get into it. But if you've been keeping up with the channel since, I'd say the past several weeks, like beginning of July, you probably noticed that pretty much every workout video, every race video, I've been wearing this rabbit singlet, the Rabbit Speedies. That is not because I don't do laundry regularly. I do it at least once or twice a week. But because it is my current favorite singlet, likely my race day pick at the moment. I like to wear what I'm gonna wear on race day as much as possible, as long as it's durable. So that's why I like to regularly wear this one. I do prefer it, I think, slightly over the Lululemon Fast and Free singlet, which my previous favorite racing singlet. I certainly prefer it over the Nike Aeroswift. So this is the current pick right now. That's why I'm wearing it all the time. That's why I look the same in every video. So apologies if you like variety. All right, 3 miles done, feeling nice and light and snappy. Gonna get some quick dynamic stretches in before we work into these threshold reps. I've been talking about threshold a lot. Been doing a lot of threshold work. I don't know if there's any like one agreed upon definition of threshold, unless you're using a meter that actually, measures your lactic acid by millimoles and drawing blood, all that good stuff. But the simplest sort of explanation I can come up with is an estimation, a pace estimation between your 10K pace for racing, your half marathon pace for racing, so 15K race pace, or the fastest, steady, consistent pace you could hold for an hour-long race. I look at it in a training context essentially as 10K pace, because in a race environment, whatever your 10K pace is in training, you might be able to maximize and reach for a full hour. So essentially somewhere between 10K, half marathon pace. Maybe you use that as a spectrum depending on how you're feeling, but Yeah, that's sort of what we're targeting for this. If you do it by heart rate, whatever your heart rate is for a 10K and a half marathon, somewhere in between there, I usually target somewhere from the mid 160s to the low 170s. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing here. All right, start of the first 3 mile threshold rep. All right, that's the end of the first 3 mile rep. I think I was somewhere around like 18:10, maybe a touch faster, but yeah, pretty much a little bit slower than 6 flat pace. Sort of worked into that first mile, tried to manage the effort on the second 2 miles because I have I think it's a 4-minute jog here, then another 3 mile rep. So you don't want to sort of burn the candle at both ends, burn too many matches early on. 2 burning analogies there, back to back. But other channel will give you that range of analogies, but you get what I mean. Very important part of threshold that I didn't mention was that it's pretty much, to make another analogy, going right up to the edge of the cliff before you start to produce lactic acid in your muscles, which is essentially what makes you feel like your muscles are getting tight and heavy. It's that awful feeling. Feels like pain and tightness is just like flooding your body. That's lactic acid. So the art of threshold, or more specifically your LT2, your second lactic threshold, is finding that point. That'll make sense. All right, jog recovery is over. Another 3 mile rep here. Let's go. Second 3 mile rep done. A little bit quicker that time. Stuck right around 6-minute pace yet again. My hair's probably flopping out of this hat like this. Turned it on a little bit more in terms of trying to keep an even effort throughout, sort of match that mile split pace of what I did last week during that 10K threshold. So right around 6 flat, and you can definitely breathe in. I'm walking up a hill. But another key to all this threshold stuff, based on the smarter people I've listened to talk about it, what I've read about it, always feel like you have another sort of full rep cycle in you. So I want to finish that, based on my understanding, second 3 mile rep, feeling like I could do another 3 mile rep after this recovery. Got about 90 seconds left of this jog recovery, and then we're into a 2 mile rep. So let's keep cracking. All right, let the 2 mile rep begin. Two mile rep done. Did both those a little slower than 6 flat. I think it was like 6:02, 6:03, maybe 6:04 for both of them. Yeah, throughout the course of this workout, I brought 3 gels with me. Didn't take a single one of them. So not great on that end, but we have about 90 seconds left of our 2-minute recovery. 1 final mile at threshold effort. Honestly, these Adidas Takumi Sen 9s have held up a lot better than I thought they would over the course of double-digit mileage with like reps that are bigger. They hold up. They're like an amazing blend of smooth and snappy. Ooh. 5:55 for the final threshold mile. I don't know why my heart rate stayed that low for that. Might just be the fitness, but that mile felt as easy as the 6 flat ones before it. So I guess I opened up a little bit. Took a while, about 13 miles to be exact. We are at 12.8 miles on the day. Been running for about an hour and 27 minutes. So plan is to cool down to 15 miles. That is probably the best workout I've ever had in terms of sustaining an effort from the first rep to the last, and sustaining an effort that historically has not felt comfortable to me or doable. That was a really good one. I'll throw the splits up on the screen here, but for both the 3 mile reps, for the 2 mile rep, was right in and around 6 flat on pretty much every mile, except for that very, very first mile of the first 3 mile rep, where I was kind of getting warmed up still. Yeah, that final mile surprised me. Coming out with a 5:55, feeling like I still had more to give, feeling like I could do a couple more reps. It's a really good feeling. So yeah, solid workout. Cool down to 15. Thanks for catching another episode, another featured workout.